Hello, Authortube. I haven't done like a real Authortube video in a while, and a lot of that is because I don't know where to put this. I'll put it right here. Oh, geez, I'm like knocking everything over. That was a bad idea. Oh, shit. If I was more professional, I would have edited that whole thing out. I haven't really done, like I was saying, a Authortube video in a while, and it's kind of like I was writing that Hank Bradshaw book online, and then some like life crap happened, and kind of took me out of writing for about a week, and then some other projects came up, some like short story magazine things. So I kind of just stopped altogether. So I feel kind of shit about that. So I am going to be going back to that pretty soon here. But what I would like to talk about right now is basically all the mistakes that I've made. Not really as a writer, but more of a self-publisher, a marketer, a an email marketer, just the admin. And one of my biggest problems, and I'm sure a lot of you are like this too, when I get a new idea about something, I get so excited and I just go full bore into it without, like, I'll plan it, I'll like write it in my calendar and go, okay, this is going to come out then, this is going to come out then, and I'll write this many words a day, and then I'll go do. And I always fall short. And it's because I make way too many promises to myself or my readers, and then everything kind of goes to shit. So I would really like to not do that. But in looking over everything I've been doing, I really think a lot of it has to do with, I know a lot of authors would say this, but if I knew now what I knew then, I could pretty much like start over and everything would be fine. The problem is that like when I started using a bunch of different pen names and started Gold Medal Faucet and all that other stuff, is that I tried really hard to rebrand everything I've done and kind of force it down people's throats. And that obviously did not work the way I wanted it to. So, right off the bat, the first book I wrote was a book called Bloodlust Romance. And it was like a cross between Kurt Vonnegut and the most like fucked up like Rob Zombie, Wes Craven, Sean Cunningham thing that you could ever think of. And that was very bad, I guess. The people who like that stuff really, really, really like the book. A small publishing house picked it up, and I was not business savvy enough to know what the heck was going on with it. So when I wrote the second book, which is Bloodlust Revenge, I didn't know what to do with it because I wasn't understanding what was happening with my book, the first book, and so I was just like, I'll put it out myself. And this is like 2006, so it was like I could either do a PDF on Lulu or vanity publishing of the book. So I ended up doing the vanity publishing after I got Bloodlust Romance back, and I put Bloodlust Romance and Bloodlust Revenge out, and then a collection of like gothic-y poetry called The Legend of Cartwayne Twain and Other Tales and Poems or whatever. And at that time, before the big Amazon Kindle boom, like my books just sat there. Like I sold a couple, and then like whenever I would talk about it again, I would sell a couple more. And then I didn't really write any more books because I was writing screenplays and directing like super low budget B movies, and that paid well. So I was like, okay, I'll just do this then. But then whenever I did like a convention or a signing or anything like that for the film stuff, I would always like get copies of my books and take them, and they would sell. So it was like, okay, what do I do now? So after I came to the KDP or the Kindle Revolution or whatever people want to call it a little late, I showed up at the end of 2012, beginning 2013, and by the time I got my first new book out, Amazon changed the algorithms to where if you put a book for free and it does well, when you when it goes back into pay, it doesn't use those rankings from the free to help it. So basically, a lot of books that, like before that, like they could go free for 5 days or whatever, and then when they would come back, they would be like in the top 100 kind of thing. And that's that whole Kindle Gold Rush thing when a lot of people made a lot of money selling books on Amazon. And a lot of those people they still have huge writing careers because that was such a spotlight on the platform kind of thing. And so a lot of them built their mailing lists that way. And so the first bunch of stories I was putting out on Amazon were like, they were like barely novellas, okay? And it's been freezing all, oh wow, look at my bedhead. It's been freezing all morning, and now the sun's coming out, so it's getting warm again. So I put these out, and they weren't selling the way I thought they should. And I'm like, what the heck? These things are awesome. And they're basically all the stories that are in that Panic book that I wrote under Kurt Chakowski that's up on Amazon now. So like Unsane Sam, Bacon, Anxious Anxiety, Gonorrhea, The Roommate, The Killing of P3, and this one, which I called Free Kindle Books, because I checked Amazon, like I just started typing in free, and Free Kindle Books was the first thing that came up in the search. And I was like, oh my God, like so many people will find a book if I could call it Free Kindle Books. So I wrote this book called Free Kindle Books, and it did not work at all like I wanted it to. It's getting warm. And so, eventually, after what I thought was a really long time, Amazon hit me up and said, "You need to take this book down or change the title because it was what would I describe it as? Like basically, Amazon is controlling the president and the world, and yeah, so something fun like that." So when those stories didn't really sell like I wanted them to, I felt like the reason why was because they weren't connected to anything. Like there wasn't like a series that made people want to buy the next book. They were just like funny little bizarro tales kind of thing. So then I looked at all the stuff that I'd written because I'd written a ton of screenplays, a bunch of half finished screenplays, and whatnot. And so this one TV pilot that I wanted to pitch to people was called Black Star Canyon. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make this a series. And I've seen people do serials on Amazon, and it works. And at the time, it totally did. So I had like my individual episodes. So it was like each season. And this is also back when I was putting the books out as Creep Creeperson, because I thought that the name I had from making movies and doing the band stuff would really help out. And what I found out was readers don't give a shit about low budget horror and exploitation filmmakers. So these sold really, really well. And what I would do is I would release an episode every week for 5 weeks, and then on the 6th week put the whole season together. And the first time I did it was December, started on Christmas. So it was like December 2013, and it ran through January. And it did okay. And then Zoe, being an artist, who's extremely good, by the way, made these new covers for the books that were more along the lines of what we were into. And so we put those out in May because, like, we re-released it in May because the second season we were going to put out in June. When we put the new covers on them, and then the next month did another 5 episodes, and then the full season or whatever, that June was, at the time, the best I had done writing. Like, it was like the point where, like, I could pay all my bills and like be like, fuck, that was awesome, you know? So then what happened after June was my sales like dropped like a goddamn rock. And so that was kind of annoying. And around the same time, they started Kindle Unlimited. And when Kindle Unlimited first started, it was awesome because they didn't want to necessarily spend 99 cents on an episode that was in between 10 and 20,000 pages, but they had no problem getting it on KU and just reading through everything. So that was awesome. And like my retention rate was really good. Like people were reading Like, my first season numbers were the same as my second season numbers. And I was just like, fuck, this is awesome. And so things started going really good again. So then the idea was that in December of that year, I would do the third Black Star Canyon season. And so we did that, and halfway through that season, so I think it was episode 2 or 3, I decided that the Creep Creeperson name was hindering me more than helping me. Because I was getting all these reviews like, I doubt that's even his real name. And it's like, no fucking shit. But so I went with CC Wall, the CC being Creep Creeperson or whatever, just to kind of keep that together. My mailing list was growing. And then once I changed the name, that was huge. And the sales started going up. And that's when I was on Simon Whistler's Rock and Self-Publishing podcast talking about serials and how with KU and all that other stuff, like, I was doing really, really well. So then the bug bit me and everything kind of turned to shit. What happened, you say? And what happened was, I spread myself out a little too thin. One of the things that I had been really wanting to do was like a Twitter soap opera. Like, I would just like release like every day or whatever 180 characters that move a story along. And I immediately, when I was trying to do it, I'm like, this sucks. Like, no one's going to know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, there's not enough space here to get someone going if I'm doing this every day. So then I'm like, okay, I'll do it on my website. So I decided that I was going to write like 200 to 300 words or whatever. Like, basically like a scene if you were watching a TV show. Of this like really big Black Star Canyon-ish type story without anything paranormal, like just like a straight up kind of thing. And so for a month, I wrote every day and put something out on the website, and it really burnt me out, mainly because I wasn't getting the readers that I wanted. Not that there's a certain type of reader, but just the numbers were not good. And there were people who liked it, but it wasn't like enough to keep going with it. And so that really bummed me out. So I was like, okay, well, what else do I want to do besides Black Star Canyon? Because like I knew Black Star Canyon would end on the 5th season. So I'm like, okay, well, I really like pulps, so I would like to do like a pulp hero, and I would also like to do like an awesome like spy thriller, but like have the dude be like almost like fucking demonic, like evil kind of thing. And then I wanted to do this vampire book, and because it's a story I had for years and years that I wanted to do. And then I had this kind of zombie thing I wanted to do. So the first thing I did was the zombie and the vampire thing, because I figured those were better Hey everybody. I figured those were better properties to make money with. So I did. I'm probably going to stop this video here, actually, because we're almost at 20 minutes. So I'm going to stop it and do another one.